Hello everyone, what is going on today? My name is Buddy Blackford and this is another Photoshop CS6 tutorial where we're going to be going over the Marquee selection tools, which is in the top right of your tools, or at the very top if you have the long set of tools instead of the ones that are next to each other. So let's get started. Within the selection tools you got the rectangular marquee, elliptical marquee, and then the single row and single column marquee tools. So let's go ahead and use the rectangular marquee tool. Now what this does is it creates a rectangular or square selection that you can use to edit different parts of your photo. So what you need to do is click and drag, and you can create. Oh, I'm on the. Make sure you're at. This button right here is pressed where it says normal or new, and then make sure your style is normal. They were a bit messed up from a different project that I was working on, but make sure it's like that. So normal and this first option right here. Now click and drag, and you can create a freeform square or rectangle going on here. Now if you hold shift down, it'll create a perfect square for you. And when you release, it creates your selection. Now with this selection you can do a bunch of different things to it. You can change the color by using the paint bucket. You could move it around using your move tool. So that section of square that we got there, and you can do a few things to it. When you have the move tool selected, you're able to move the resize and everything like that, resize that section. So you can also press delete and delete that section out. So if I had to cancel that, don't apply. If I have the marquee selection and I press delete, it'll delete it right out. Conversely, you can take the move tool and just move it off the screen if you want, but that's up to you. So we've got a few options here. We've got the new, which is this first one here, new selection. We've got add to selection. If I click on that and then I add or intersect these, it's going to add to the selection that I already have. Or if you're just out here, it's just going to have another separate box for you. And then you can hit delete, and then it'll delete. I hit Control Z to go back, and then I can hit Control D to remove my selection so that I have nothing selected. So I'm going to create a new box. And then the next one we have is subtract. So I could come in here and then this area would be subtracted. So if I want to move this, you can see that square is still in the middle, which is nice. You can create some cool looking designs doing that. So the next one over we have is intersect. Now anything that intersects here is going to be kept. So instead of cutting out that section, it's going to keep whatever section intersected with your. And we got our feather over here. Let's make sure we're on a new selection. We got our feather here, and if I increased that to something, say like 100 pixels, draw out my mask or out my selection, you can see that because there's a feather, and it goes off by 100 pixels because that's what I typed in. Now if I make a selection and I want it to be a lot more, like 500 pixels, you'll see how the shape looks a lot different. Now it looks like a circle because it's so feathered off, and that's what you get right there. So let's put this back to 0, and then I'll make a new selection. We've got our different styles going on here, and the normal is just what we've been doing. It allows you to create freeform shapes, that stay within like the square or rectangle. So it lets you create freeform square or rectangles to whatever height and width that you want. Now we've got the fixed ratio here, and the fixed ratio allows you to input a width and a height, and then it'll stay, the selection that you make will stay within that ratio. So I can't freeform this. I'm moving my mouse around all over, and it's just only allowing me to stay at a 16:9 ratio. So eventually, if I drag this out, I could get to 16:9 inches. So let me do it from the top, and there it is, about there. So that's how the fixed square. I can't click and drag or anything like that because it's just a fixed size. So go to normal, and I wanted to show you something else that's pretty cool. So there is another thing that I want to show you guys that is pretty sweet. You can create your selection from the center of where your cursor was. If you click and then you hold down Alt and drag, let me click and start dragging, and you hold down Alt, it'll create the selection from the center instead of dragging it from the corner. So that's pretty helpful if you want to start in the middle of your document or something like that. So let's see what else there is to talk about. Let's go to the next tool, which is the elliptical marquee, and pretty much this is almost the same. Let's change from fixed size to normal, and we'll just drag out something here. We've got our same selections options up here: add, subtract, and intersect. Our feather is on there, and then we've got anti-alias, which makes this smoother. So if I hit delete and take off my selection, we can see that we have a nice smooth circle. Let me go back, and I'll uncheck anti-alias, click here, and delete and deselect. We still have a smooth circle. Let's check inside. The anti-aliasing is supposed to make this like really smooth, but you can see that it's a little jagged instead. So that's what the anti-aliasing does. Basically, it creates a softer selection. So the elliptical marquee tool, it's good for making circles and ellipses. If you let me zoom out and get back to where it was, so everything's not like deleted out and everything. Let's go back to where we were. 100% is fine, doesn't matter. And click on this. We've got the ability to make like ovals, ellipses, and if you hold shift you can create the perfect circle. And of course if you drag and then hold Alt, you'll start making this from the center. If you hold Alt and Shift, it makes a perfect circle from the center. If you don't hold Shift, it makes like whatever shape that you are going for. So that's all for the marquee and elliptical marquee tools, so the rectangular and elliptical. And then in the next tutorial, since this one's getting a little bit long, I'll go over the single row and single column. So thanks for watching this tutorial, and stay tuned for more tutorials about the different tools, because that's what we're getting into right now. So see you guys later. Have a good one.